Alright, Sony being Sony, naturally they thought releasing a movie about a meme half a decade after it peaked was obviously a good investment. At the same time, I guess that's a fair reason to cop out on this channel and talk about the rise and fall of the internet's most iconic horror meme. Kinda. Let's talk about it. Admittedly, as a horror fan, I just did not get the appeal for this one. Slenderman was the very definition of a great concept, overexposed to the contrived masses of the internet's abrasive imagination, and its creator Eric Knudsen, or Victor Surge as the internet knew him, clearly understood this. In June 2009, Knudsen posted two black and white images which contained a tall silhouetted entity stalking children to win a Photoshop contest on the Something Awful forums. In his perspective, he simply saw Slenderman as something that resonated with the paranoia of the unknown, drawing from many inspirations including The Rake, That Insidious Beast, Stephen King, William Burroughs, Phantasm, Lovecraft, Mothman, and the list goes on and on. But it wasn't so much the mythology or lack thereof that drove curiosity. Slenderman, in essence, seemed to capture the visual manifestation of our moral panic towards stranger danger. And like any good horror, it reminded us just how fragile and easy it is to rob us of our safety. Now, it was not the first time we had seen this style of horror imagery. Just take a generic, seemingly normal photograph and have something odd lingering in the background for people to theorize, and then have it thrown onto some sort of shallow top 10 list. There's a lot of these types of photos littered all over the internet. So while Slenderman wasn't original, of course, it did bring an air of subtlety and starkness back to this kind of internet hoaxy horror, shall we say. From the initial photos, it depended very much on a similar public perception that films like Halloween and The Strangers had already conveyed, and that was just how easy it was for someone dangerous to hide in plain sight and prey on those we care about. Remember, before everyone was taking photos of dense, empty forests and slapping Slenderman in the background, Knudsen presented him as out in the open. He aggressively terrorized the piece by going to their place of safety, not the other way around like much of the fiction that followed. As a result, the horror was unprovoked, making it all the more unpredictable and thus unpreventable. Slenderman spawned countless imitators and fan theories trying to get in on the action, but one particular project emerged that took things to the next level. In fact, it became so popular that it indirectly inspired much of the canon that followed. This was Marble Hornets. This YouTube channel played itself off as legitimate, in the same vein as Knudsen's original images, while drawing influence from the same ARG tactics used by the Blair Witch Project, Cloverfield, and specifically the vlog-style series Lonely Girl 15. The channel follows Jay, a friend of filmmaker Alex Crawley, who abruptly cancelled production on his feature film Marble Hornets after being stalked by a mysterious entity known as the Operator. For mythos purposes, the Operator is not Slenderman, but given it was the first real indistinguishable imitation and probably considered the best, Marble Hornets was actually the deviation that split the original lore from Knudsen's aggressive, violent menace to one that behaved more passively and gradually tormented its victims over time. It genuinely can't be underestimated how Marble Hornets kept Slenderman alive. Sure, there was Parsec Productions' Slender the 8 Pages and Arrival that blew up thanks to the Let's Play community, which is a different world of deafening vapidity entirely, but regardless, I'd argue much of their concepts were largely lifted from Hornets' eerie style of presentation. Hornets was all about bringing its alluring premise into reality. The lack of a verbal narrator or traditional plot structure made it feel authentic, when timed with the on-screen text and pseudo-documentary feel. Note that I'm talking about the earliest entries, which were extremely nuanced from a storytelling perspective. It gradually fragmented its information in real time to give the impression that Jay was trying to make sense of his findings in that very moment. The fact the audio is sometimes lost creates this uncomfortable feeling of absence that's further reinforced by how rare conventional horror tropes are used. Again, at least in the earliest entries anyway.
Let's get him off the set. I hope he's not angry at it. Hey, buddy.
What's he doing?
Since the series remained detached from its audience to maintain the idea that Jay was simply sharing an archive in the event that something unforeseen would occur, it encouraged audiences to greatly speculate on websites and social media. Sure, people knew it was fake, or Christ, I hope they knew it was fake, but keeping with the internet's tradition of rumors, theories, and interpretations, it helped build upon the mystery in a way that felt organic and real. Of course, there was a lot of nonsense and trash to come from it, but the inevitable contradictions and complications in the lore were socially and culturally influenced. It was a collective experience dependent on the overactive imagination of real people, a mystery so uncontrolled and unmanufactured that it could be taken by gullible and lay people as something partially genuine. And eventually it was.
Stabbed 19 times, allegedly by two of her friends, who said they were trying to impress a fictional internet character called Slenderman.
In Wisconsin in May 2014, two 12-year-old girls stabbed their classmate 19 times in what they claim was a bid to prove their loyalty and servitude to the Slenderman and stop him from harming their families. Both girls were diagnosed with mental illnesses and seen as unfit to serve in trial. One was sentenced to 40 years in a mental hospital and the other received 25 years, both pending psychological evaluations given their disturbing accounts of the Slenderman allegedly watching over them. And the victim miraculously survived. Slenderman had become accessible to the masses to the point many were willing to suspend their disbelief to make the premise more exciting and haunting. For a brief moment, he was practically the poster child for the horrors of the internet that concerned many parents and authority figures. But like with any culturally driven influence, Slenderman himself became a victim to the internet's overindulgence on turning a mystery into a complex conspiracy, and it lost the enigmatic and ambiguous allure it once had. Similar to the J-horror that inspired it, the scares came from our mundane everyday life becoming intruded by unnatural circumstances. The minimalism, or lack of sufficient explanation, made the fear all the more overwhelming and existential because we couldn't understand it. Slenderman had lost its purity. We were left with a pop culture icon pushed to the front and center, no longer concealed naturally within our world. Instead of integrating it into the everyday was soon built around it, calling so much attention to him that it no longer felt unusual. So then, where exactly did Slenderman go for the last few years? Well, people moved on. What, did you expect something more climactic? I mean, it is the internet after all. Things briefly trend until something else comes along and takes its place. That's just how it works. I think, in a way, Slenderman was a twofold idea. It was an extraordinarily collective experience, and a cautionary tale of both our overactive imagination and how sometimes the most frightening things are best left undisturbed. But I want to end with a comment by the original creator Eric Knudsen that I feel best summarizes its impact. Urban legend requires an audience ignorant of the origin of the legend. It needs unverifiable third and fourth hand or more accounts to perpetuate the myth. On the internet, anyone is privy to its origins, as evidenced by the very public Something Awful thread. But what is funny is that despite this, it still spread. Internet memes are finicky things, and by making something at the right place and time, it can swell into internet urban legend. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think is the scariest creepypasta, because who knows, I might do a video on the overlook of horror culture in general in terms of creepypastas and the internet. Until next time, if you enjoy what I do here, you want to get early access and vote on future videos, even get the occasional bonus video, you can do so by supporting me over on Patreon. And yeah, follow me over on Twitter so you can keep up with my shenanigans. Stay safe, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.